So the topic of today's mastermind is maximizing your listing presentation. So I'm always going to start all of our masterminds. And for those of you who haven't participated in a mastermind, masterminds are legitimately about collaboration, right? So the entirety of what we're shooting for here is a collaborative conversation. So my first thing that I'm going to put out to you guys is, what made you decide to take your time, put this on your calendar, register, and say, yeah, I'm going to participate in that. I want to show up to that presentation. So somebody throw something out to me. Tell me what it is that you thought about this conversation would be valuable for you. Cynthia Burke, bring it home.
Yeah, I mean, just it's obviously a seller's market, and this is about listings, and I'd like to hear what other people are doing and just be inspired by you all. That's all.
Indeed, indeed. It is a listing market, isn't it? So maximizing your listing presentation would be ideal. Let me tell you what you get to do now. Just go in the person's house, say, what do you want to sell it for? I'll throw a sign in the yard and I'll get it for you, right? That's it. You guys got the whole gist. That's not entirely accurate. All right, what else? Thank you, Cynthia. Who else came here with a topic or a thing that they hope that they can take with them and put in their listing presentation tomorrow? Talk to me, talk to me.
I came here for general knowledge because I know that you have a successful team, and I think smart people listen to smart people.
Oh, so, Bill, you did a really smart thing right there.
Yeah.
You said smart people listen to smart people. So not only did you compliment me, but you categorized yourself as smart. That is a good one. That's a good move right there. I love it. Thank you.
Matt likes fluffing.
You're welcome.
Good job.
Oh, easy, Corey. Fluffing. Easy, Corey. Who else? Give me one more. I want to hear something specific, because what we're going to do in the next hour is I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the evolution of the Matt Miale listing presentation and why I think I'm able to list as many homes as I do in the most efficient way possible, because efficiency is really what drives me. So I'd like to hear maybe one or two more things, like what do you hope to get out of this? Some of you guys just said, I'm just here to listen in. Something. Somebody's got something. All right. Gedna, you've got your hand up.
Hi.
Hi.
For me, I can do 10 to 20 buyers consultations all day, but when it comes to a listing presentation, I get, I don't know, I am a different person. I'm hoping tonight I'll hear something, I'll learn something that will give me some confidence.
I love it. I love it. Well, I think you will. So, any other comments before I jump in and start giving you guys some details? Why are we here? That's the question we started with. Is that Justin Bieber? We talking about Nick Green? Nick, he's calling you out, dude. Literally.
I didn't do it in the chat, man. Come on, I did it quietly. I'm like, whoa, Justin Bieber's here.
By the way, that's not Justin Bieber. That is Justin Timberlake. Okay, so back off, buddy. All right, so let me tell you guys. I'm going to give you guys a little backstory. So for those of you that don't know me, I kind of jumped in. I started asking you to collaborate. That's just so I can find out who's going to play along. My name is Matt Miale. I run the Miale Team. We've been in business as an organization since about 2010. Last year, we closed 470 homes with 17 full-time agents. So highly, highly productive group of agents. Our listing to buyer side split is about 55-45. We are a listing heavy, just barely. We list a little more than we sell on buy side. That's okay, by the way. We actually like that. I'd really actually rather have 50-50 because that means we're really maximizing our opportunity in the market. So what we really focus on our team, obviously, is going out, finding new opportunities. So the first thing that you need in order to be an active and really good listing agent is you need opportunities, correct? Right? So most of us want to learn to be a lights out listing agent and spend a ton of time working on the glossy materials and the folders and the presentation and the PowerPoint, but we spend a lot less time worrying about getting into the opportunities. And I can tell you, step one to becoming a great listing agent is getting in a lot more living rooms. You have to be an awesome lead generator in order to become a great listing agent. It's the first most important thing. Nobody hits a home run the first time they swing a bat, ever. So if you're here because you want to be a great listing agent, my advice to you is lead generate more. There's plenty of opportunities out there. We took 11 listings last week in this market. There's plenty of opportunities. If you're not getting them, it's simply because you're not out there trying to find them. You just have to, and the agents on our team are lights out listing agents. God bless anybody if they ever compete against them. They're awesome, right? So what do we do when we list? So I'm going to give you the evolution of the Matt Miale listing presentation. When I started in the business, I did what most of us do, in that I took all the information that I had about a property. If I knew that I was going to 123 Main Street at 5 o'clock on Tuesday, what I would do is I would spend hours and hours before I went to that property, and I would pull up printouts, and I would pull up information, and I would get town cards, and I would find out as much as I possibly could about that property. I would prepare what we call a CMA, right, guys? Everybody knows what a CMA is. I do a market analysis, and I would print off all the versions of like this stuff. I would make colored copies of these things, like the plaques and the awards. And I'd go in there with a bound presentation and a cover on it and be like, welcome to the party. You got the Matt Miale presentation. And then I would sit down with them and I would take them through 30 pages of information. And at the end of it, I would feel amazing. No way they're not going to hire me. And I would walk out the door and I'd be like, these guys are totally going to hire me. I showed them all my plaques. I showed them all my #1 certificates. I showed them my 37-point marketing plan. There's no way they're not going to hire me. And then 3 days later, they'd call and they said, we went with somebody else. Oh, my God, that was exhausting. Anybody else tired just to hear me talk about it? Has that ever happened to you? Who's been a listing agent and had that happen? You put your best presentation forward, right? You put it all in paper. You printed it. It was on glossy paper. I mean, you even spent the extra money and you showed up and you nailed it and they didn't hire you. So what happened? Why did they not choose you? Robert says he's been there. Hey, Rob, what's up? Yeah, we've all been there. Here's the thing that I figured out. Number one, nobody hires your presentation. They hire you, right? They are literally not interested in your presentation. It's actually the least important part of the equation. We come into the industry and early on we're taught that that's the thing that we have to have. Listing presentation, right? What is your listing presentation? We spend a lot of time, effort, and energy creating that perfect thing. Gosh, I probably got some like versions that are like this, right? Like they're all bound and they look amazing. But people hire who they know, like, and trust. And there's really two barriers for that. Are you credible and are you trustworthy? So when you go to a listing appointment, those are the two things that you need to establish, that you're trustworthy and you're credible. So who wants to tell me a situation where they go and talk to somebody where they feel like the person's trustworthy and credible? What is that experience like? How do they act? You guys all know it.
They listen, they look you in the eyes, they sincerely hear you, they repeat back what you're saying with questions, and they're just engaged completely. And they don't interject much about themselves. They're more want to hear about you. And just you end up talking more than they do because they're so eager to know you. Those are great people.
The list, you nailed it, Cynthia. The listing presentation is actually what I call the needs analysis. And what I find fascinating is I think that a lot of real estate agents, they try to rush the needs analysis and then think the needs analysis is done when the person says, I want to sell my house. Is that actually the need?
Mm-mm.
No. Why? Why do they want to sell their house? What's actually going on behind the scenes? No one ever wants to sell their house. It's a terrible experience. Have anybody here ever sell their own home? It's awful. Like it's stressful. I mean, even professionals go through this process and they find themselves upside down, stressed out, worried, anxious. It's not a good experience. No one would ever reasonably sign up for it. right? So when we walk in the door and we hand them a glossy bound 30-page presentation about the price of their home, and we don't actually understand what's going on, by the way, that's what I did for years, right? We don't really know what the heck they want to do. We're making a very presumptive position, and we're actually showing up the opposite of what we need to show up as, which is credible and trustworthy. So like the evolution of the Matt Miale listing presentation went for a while. I kept showing up with these presentations. And then eventually I realized that the people that were hiring me were the ones that I was actually sitting down and talking to that I wasn't presenting to. And so I was still bringing the presentations, but I got to the point where I would bring them and I would set them on the table and I would say, so let's just talk for a minute. But tell me a little bit about what's going on. What do you guys want? What are you trying to do here? Right? What's the other thing that happens the first thing you walk in the house? What do they typically want you to do?
Look at the house.
Look at the house, right? So I don't do that anymore. So now when I walk in, they say, well, welcome, Matt. I said, thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here. Really appreciate the opportunity. And they go, okay, well, let's start in the kitchen. I go, no, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Let's sit down in the kitchen. Let's sit down for a minute. Let's just sit down. So two things that happen in that moment, right? Number one, I'm taking control of the experience, right? So we're taking command of the presentation. Who's in charge when I say, let's sit down first? I am, right? So by the way, that shows credibility, confidence. So I say, let's sit down and let's talk for a minute. So we sit down and then I go through the needs analysis. There's only one question you guys need to memorize, and the rest of it you're going to naturally be good at because you're people. You're in the real estate business. So tell me, why am I here? That's the only question you need to memorize. So they might say all kinds of stuff as a response. They might say, you called me, dingbat. You told me that the market was hot and that it was time to sell. You go, yeah, of course, I know that, but you agreed to meet with me. Why is now a good time? Tell me a little bit about what's going on in your life that would make this a good time to sell. And remember, when they say, I want to maximize the sale price of the house, that's still not a why. Why now? This is a disruptive, terrible experience. People are going to be storming through your house. There's a pandemic. It's going to be disruptive and not fun. Why do you want to go through this? Like, what is it that's creating this need for me, a stranger, to be in your home right now? You've got to get to the core of that. Here's the bottom line. When you get to that, everything else doesn't matter because you're the only person that's going to actually take the time to truly understand what it is they're trying to do. So the needs analysis is the key to a successful listing presentation. And it takes however long it takes. That's the other thing you need to understand is that some people might want to talk to you for an hour and you're going to have to hear about the kids and the trouble in school. And you might have to talk to them a little bit about, their divorce or their ailing parents that are in another state. You need to find out what's driving the need. And I'm not trying to sound callous. I'm just saying that you need to find out what's driving the need because you are there to solve a problem, not to sell a house. Because selling the house, right? You need to be able to have a trusting, direct relationship with them in order to give them good feedback. So here's another thing that I just want to point out. When you go in a house with a CMA, by the way, the evolution, right? Started out with big presentation, pricing, all that stuff, evolved. The package got smaller and smaller, right? To the point where I didn't look at it. And now I go and I don't bring anything, nothing at all, just my phone. That's it. And so they want to show you the house. We talked about that, right? What's the other thing they always want to know? What is the thing they really want you to tell them?
How much can I get for my house?
Price, baby. Talk to me. Let's show me the money, right? Like, so here's the thing. If you walk in the door, right? Let's say, I bet you want the shortest listing presentation ever. Ding dong. Oh, hi, Matt. Welcome. Hi, I did the research. I could sell your house for $825. Awesome. See you later. That's it. That's all they actually care about, right? So when you give them a number up front, number one, you didn't actually do your job because you didn't actually solve their problem. You just gave them a random number. Anybody can do that. Nothing special or unique about that. Number two, they're immediately disinterested in anything else you have to say. So on the team and everybody, whenever somebody comes to our team, they always love to fight me on this one. It's my favorite. It's one of my favorite battles. Like, we don't present or sell on price ever. We never present price. So how is it that we listed and sold over 300 homes last year and we don't present on price? That's pretty contrary to what most of you guys have been taught, right? Is that fair? Hey, I need to do my CMA, right? The CMA, that's what they're going to hire me on. It's not. It's not what they're going to hire you on. They're going to hire you because you're credible and trustworthy. So you bring them, you help them identify their need. You help coach them through how what they need to do is going to be solved by you helping them sell the house. And then you then get to the price. Do the tour of the home, sit down with them, right? So I told you one question. So this is really, I'm giving you guys the outline of my presentation. Question number one, why am I here? Tell me about it. That enters your needs analysis. Then I tour the home after I've gotten clear about what their need is. And then I sit down back at the kitchen table, living room, wherever they put me. And I say, oh, so I've got a really good sense of what you guys have here. So why don't you tell me, what do you guys think it should sell for? Now, somebody give me the objection. Just give it to me. You already know what it is. What do you think they say when I ask that question? Other than Cynthia, she's stealing the show. She's got 5 stars. Gold star.
Why you're here.
What? Who said it? Who said it?
Deb.
Deb said it. 100% Deb. That's what they say every time. That's why you're here. That's what I asked you to come for. And so at that point, now remember, you've established credibility because you've done a needs analysis. So you have a little bit of permission to push back on them, solely because you've established the relationship. So at that point, what I say is I say, here's what I promise. I promise I'm going to be 100% honest with you about what I think your house is going to sell for. But before I do that, I want to take the awkwardness out of the room and make sure that we're on the same page. Because if you tell me, and I'll use this example, let's say that I already went through the house and I think it's a 600s house. And I'll say, if you tell me you think the house is going to sell for $1 million, that's going to be one way that I want to talk to you about the price of your home. And if you tell me the house is going to sell for 300, that's another way. But I promise I'm going to tell you 100% honest. So what do you think? Where do you think it should be? And I also, what I'm trying to gauge from them is, what is their expectation? It's not about me pricing to get the listing. It's about continuing to evolve to deepen the relationship. Because if they think they're getting $1 million and you throw a number out there at 600, what's going to happen? Thank you very much for coming. Let's go to the door, right? Like, that's it. It's over. Everything else you say from that point on, they're not going to hear you. So you have to get a sense of what they think. You've got to get a sense of it. So that's question number 2, right? Question number 1, why am I here? Question number 2, after you do the tour, what do you think we could sell your house for? So then at that point, they're gonna actually press you. So they might say, well, I was thinking I could probably get between 7 and 750. And you could say, yeah, you know what? That's actually probably not that far off. Before I commit to a pricing strategy, I want to make sure, do you have any questions for me about how my team operates or how we're going to market the property? And of course, they're going to ask, right? What is your marketing strategy? So you, by the way, have to have your own marketing strategy, whatever that is. That's your key value proposition in the relationship with your seller. What is your marketing strategy? What are the things that you do that are unique to you? Explain it. Have I answered all your questions? Do you understand what our key marketing strategies are, the things that we're going to do in order to sell your home? They'll typically say yes. If they're a really high C personality, very detail oriented, they'll take lots of notes, right? And then, by the way, you want to wrap that up in the marketing section by saying, after I leave here, I'm going to go do some research on the pricing. I'm also going to send you guys an overview of our marketing plan. Remember that glossy presentation that all of you guys have that you didn't bring with you? You're just going to take that page and you're going to send it to them after you've met with them. Follow me? Yeah. Let me pause right there. Who's got questions? You follow the path of how this is working?
So instead of a pre-listing package, you're sending it out after your conversation, if you will.
Yes. I like to bookend it actually, Deb. I send them something before and I send them something after, but they're basically the same. It's effectively the same information. The meeting for me is the consultation, right? So I ask them, I say before I get into price, do you have any other questions? They're going to ask about marketing. They might ask you about open houses. They might ask you about staging and design. Some of that might be part of your key value proposition, right? But you kind of like this section of the presentation is what you need to have memorized. By the way, this is your key value proposition. And I want to say something else too. I'm not telling you guys, like, if you're comfortable bringing something, certainly do that. 100% you should do it. Like, you shouldn't not bring it. Just don't go and hide behind a presentation. That will actually lose you more listings than it will win you. If you want to bring your marketing strategy in a folder and like hand it to them and say everything's listed in here, but remember that you are in the room to build a relationship. That's why they invited you there. And the person who wins every time is the one who has the best relationship. It's actually liberating, guys. Like, for me, that was so much more. I wanted to be judged on how good of a friend I could be. I was better at that than making presentations. Any other questions before I move on to the next piece? All right, so they're going to ask you about your marketing. What's another question that they're inevitably going to ask you about? There you go, Nick. Nick's saying it.
How much do you cost?
How much for the goods, man? How much do you charge? How much do you charge, right? Because we can't have that conversation in a public forum around percentages. You're just simply going to answer that question around what your fee structure is. You can have whatever fee structure you want. You can charge whatever percent commission you want. That's 100% up to you. Some of you might be discount brokers. Some of you might be, charging 12%. You can charge whatever you want. We obviously can't legally have that dialogue, but they're going to ask, so you need to answer it. Here's my only advice around this. Answer it directly, confidently, and then shut the hell up. Shut your mouth. Stop talking. Say the number. It's X percent to hire me. Quiet. Wait. Most of them are going to go, okay. Somebody's going to say, would you do it for less? And then you got to navigate and do that commission dance, which, on offline, you can call me and ask me about that. All right. So they're going to ask you about marketing. They're going to ask you how much you cost. What else are they going to ask you in that dialogue? Come on, you guys are all top dog listing agents. What else are they going to ask you? I've got like 8 questions I can fire at you. I want you to ask.
How quick are you going to sell my house?
Ooh, that's a great one, Rob. And Sylvia, we'll get to yours in a second too.
Okay.
How fast will it take? So the best way to answer that is by making sure that you know the market stats. Okay. The right answer to how long it will take is always average days on market is. Our job is to beat the average. So here's the good news about average days on market. If you know the stats in the marketplace that you're in, average days on market is always going to be longer than it should take you to sell a house if you professionally market it, right? You guys are pros because you took time out of your, Tuesday night to come and learn about how to become a better listing agent. So 100% everybody that's on this call is going to be able to beat the average days on market. As long as you set that expectation, average days on market in this market is X. Our job is to beat the average. So they might then, again, press and say, well, what does that mean? And you can say, look, a lot of that's going to depend on who shows up and when and what they're willing to do. But a market like this, our job is to beat the average. We should be able to do that with no problem based on the way that we're going to help you market and prep your home to make it its best possible condition. Sylvia, you had a question too. Where'd you go? There you are.
I'm here. Hi.
What did you get, Sylvia?
When you're touring the home, do you tell them what they need to do in each room to prepare for the market, or do you take down notes and then email it to them after?
I am such a fan of this question, Sylvia. And you know why? Because you brought me back to something that now everybody, you guys are all going to have your own strategy. And some of you guys might position part of your value proposition as being a stager, right? Or as being somebody who can help them do that. I actually do the opposite because I want to be in and out of the house. I'm just being honest as fast as possible. And I really don't want to talk about their carpet. I don't want to talk about their paint colors. I could care less about the way that they design or decorate their mantle. I have zero interest in it, right? So when they ask me, what do you think we should do? One of the things we do on our team is we literally stage and design every home that we list. By the way, that's part of our core value proposition that I talk about when I talk about what we do. So because we do that, when they ask me any question that I don't want to answer about their decorating, Matt, what do you think of these curtains? My grandmother made them. They're so pretty. Oh my God, they're amazing. They have these little ponies and butterflies on them. I can say, like, honestly, I'm the wrong guy to ask. And this is an actual script that I have used hundreds, if not thousands of times. I say, the last guy that you want to ask about design is me. If it were up to me, it'd be Pink Floyd and Bob Marley posters all over my house. Fortunately, I'm married and my wife won't let me decorate anything. But the person you want to ask is a professional designer that we work with on our team who's going to be able to give you really good, timely, up-to-date information. Frankly, it could go either way. Her job is to make the best possible version of your house available at the time that we decide to put it on the market. See, that's just like a little dodge and weave. I don't want to talk about it. Like, and by the way, I'm not good at it. Some of you guys might be, but I'm not. Like, that decorating is just not a thing. Like, I guess I could fumble my way through it. And by the way, we said earlier, we'll talk a little bit about the evolution of a listing presentation. Yes, there was certainly a time in my life where I tried to fumble my way through it. And what I realized is I'm not passionate about it. I don't care about it. And so it's just not a thing that I should be giving advice about. But it's easy for me to get a stager who does care about it, who is interested in it, who is going to bring energy to that conversation. See, I'm trying to get out of that conversation. They're trying to get into it. So I just get out of the way, which, by the way, what does that say to the client? That I'm going to bring professional level service to the table. Again, back to the credibility. So it's a great question, Sylvia. What I typically do is I default out of that dialogue. They will sometimes ask me multiple times throughout the course. Do you think we should keep this carpet? Do you think? And I always say the same thing. That's a great question for the designer. That's a great question for the designer. Let's let them weigh in on that. Let's let them weigh in on that. There's another reason strategically that I do this, guys. It's really important for you to have the most honest, authentic, direct conversation that you possibly can with your client. Your relationship from day one, they have to know that you're on their side. And the worst thing that you could do is go into somebody's house and start telling them the way they decorate, the way they design is not modern, is out of date, isn't quite what people are looking for. I don't care how sophisticated your language is. When you go in someone's home and tell them their furniture needs to be in the garage instead of in the living room, they're gonna take it personally. I made a decision early in my career to just never stand in the way of that, to let someone else take the brunt of that, so that when I had to have an honest, important conversation with them, I hadn't eroded my credibility with them by insulting their grandmother's couch. It's just a relationship. It's just, that's a strategy that I use. So the other thing, Sylvia, let me point this out too. when I tour the property, I'm only successful at this probably about 65, 70% of the time. I actually usually ask them not to come with me. So I go and we sit down, we talk, and then we get to the need. Once I've really felt like I've understood why they want to move, why they want to go through this torturous experience, then what I say to them is I say, all right, let me go take a look at the house. I'll be right back. I say it like that to set the expectation that I'm going by myself. I'll be right back. And then I explain it. The reason I want to go by myself, guys, is I want to take a look at the property the way a buyer would see it. And I understand you're going to want to come through and tell me all about the things that you've done to the property. I'll have some questions when I come back, but it's more important for me to see it the way a buyer will see it than it is for me to see it through your eyes. So let me go take a look, get a perspective on it. It will only take me 5 to 10 minutes. I do this all the time. Again, just an in charge, in control. I'm going to go do it this way. Some of them will still follow you. Like, this is 100%. They'll go, okay. And then you start walking and then they just come with you, right? Totally fine. It's their house. You'd be weird to say, go sit down. If you say that, you're going to lose the listing. Just let them come with you. You don't tell them, go back in the corner. Just let them come. But some of them will just wait and then you come back. You go, you see everything. Note to self, for those of you that are super high D personalities like me, don't accidentally skip a huge section of the house because you're really just walking around for the sake of it. Like, make sure you actually see the whole house. Like, because I've done that. I've gone back to the kitchen and they're like, you didn't even see the addition. And I'm like, oh, I guess I missed it. Let me go. Because actually, I'm just trying to hurry up. Like, I don't need to see the house. You guys all know this. Like, we don't need to see every nook and cranny of the house to do our job really effectively. We really don't, like, especially when you've done this for as long as we have. So again, just being very candid, make sure you see the whole house. Then when you go back, you sit down with them, you go through marketing, pricing, you answer the questions about staging, preparation. Let me take one more. What else do you think they might ask when you come back after you've toured the house? What's another question? Give me one more. I got a bunch of good ones. Most what you guys have asked is pretty much it. Marketing, pricing, right? What are you going to sell the house for? Days on market. What should we do before we list? What else? Commission. We got that one. They asked about it. And we covered it. You basically just answer it and shut up. Right. And then if they negotiate with you, Nick.
How about someone asking, do you sell in my town or neighborhood? Are you local?
That's a great one. Great one. So somebody might say, like, how many houses have you sold in my town? Right. So first and most important, don't ever lie. Lying is a terrible way to start a relationship. So you always need to be honest. Okay. And honesty is the only 100%. Like, sales is about relationships. And if you start a relationship by lying to somebody, it's a terrible relationship. I don't like people in my life that lie to me. I'm sure you don't like people in your life that lie to you. So don't ever lie to a client. Right. So if you're sitting at somebody's table and you've sold 0 homes in that town, just say, actually, I've never sold a house in this town, and I'm really looking forward to yours being the first. Confident. Okay. Now, here's the problem, right? Now, Nick's opening a can of worms because that's going to, now you planted a seed that you think they might be really concerned about it. You have to have the objection handler ready for why that doesn't matter. I don't know if I have time to do that one. So why does it not matter whether you've sold all the houses in that town, right? Because you're going to be the listing agent. Where are the buyers likely to come from? Other agents, right? So if you have relationships outside of that town, that can be a massive benefit to the person in that town, because there's a high probability the buyer may be coming from outside of town, just like they might be coming from inside town, right? And at the end of the day, what are we here to do? Advocate for you through the process. So where my address is doesn't actually matter. Here's my favorite example to overcome that objection. Let me ask you a question. If you had to have knee surgery and you knew you had to have knee surgery, it was unavoidable, would you hire the closest knee surgeon or the best knee surgeon? Which one would you hire? I'm just curious, because at the end of the day, What you're actually hiring is advocacy. You're hiring me to be in your home with you when you have to make decisions, not to actually be out there in the field waving a flag to try to drag people into the house. My job is to advocate for you, and my advocacy doesn't have an address. So the fact of the matter is that this is going to be the first home I've sold in your town, and it will have absolutely no impact on how effectively I represent you. You just have to be super confident about it. Great objection though, Nick. And that's a very much, you have to have confidence when you overcome that one. You got to be able to talk about how your influence outside of that market will be a benefit to them, and that advocacy inside while working with them is what they're really hiring. It's not geography. And would you want to hire a professional would you hire somebody just, and I always use knee surgeon because it's not like that scary. You wouldn't want to say cardiac surgeon because then people, like something, right? Doctor, whatever. So great one. Hala, you raised your hand. Hello, Hala. You're muted. You're muted.
Yeah, I'm showing property, and I listened
love
to your class in the car, and now I'm showing property. Can you hear me?
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I want to go back to the staging because I know you are a team, but what about solo agent who doesn't have a stager? I do give my opinion about everything. Remove the carpet, remove this one, remove this one.
Yeah. I mean, Hala, that again, my position on it could be different than yours. This is about an agent's value proposition. So that could be a part of your value proposition. That's just not part of my value proposition because I'm not a designer and I don't have any interest in being it. So I made a business decision early on in my career to make that somebody else's job. But there's lots of agents out there that are excellent stagers and they do go through that process. That's just not a thing that I chose to do. I'm not necessarily telling you to do it one way or the other. I'm just telling you what we do on our team because we believe it makes us more efficient and it allows professionals to come in that are better at that than we are. That's just generally how we feel. And I also think it strengthens the relationship.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Let me finish my showing. Do you want to see the basement? Okay.
All right. Sell it, Hala. Come on. Let's go. No more waiting around. So let's see. Pascal asked, do I have to fix anything? Again, great question, Pascal. And I would tell you that, if it's something obvious, you absolutely shouldn't ignore it, right? Like if you walk in the house and cabinet doors are hanging off, again, the best way to develop a good relationship is be honest with people. Nobody's gonna forget that the cabinet doors are hanging off. Like be honest, like, hey, we're going to have to obviously get these taken care of. And 99% of the time, they're going to know that. I never tell people to do major improvements because in the state of Connecticut, that has never yielded any upside for the client. And I try to explain that to them. So just yesterday, I was at a listing presentation and the woman was asking, should I redo my floors? Like I got a quote, I could sand them, I could do it. And I looked at her and I said, what was the quote? She said, $5,000. I said, okay. What's the disruption to your life going to be for the fact that you actually have to move out of the entire house, right? To have your floors done. How long is that going to take you? You're going to move out and then you're going to have to move back in after they're done. So what's that going to look like? Do you have a place to go? Do you have movers? She's like, no, I have none of that. And I'm like, then it's totally not worth it. Like, will you get more money for your house if your floors are done? Yeah, probably. But to what extent? If it costs you $5,000, you're not going to make $20,000 more by redoing the floor. At least in every situation is different, guys. But that wouldn't be a scenario. Like best case scenario, she might cost her $5,000 and she'd get $5,000, but she wasn't going to get $30,000. And I always say this, look, it makes my job easier. The nicer the house presents, the newer it presents. But I also, part of what you hired me for is to give you honest feedback about like helping you get to what you want to do. Remember what they hired you for, because you've already had that conversation before you get into dialogues about repairs and stuff. You've already had the conversation about why they're trying to do what they do. And what I can say is you spending that $5,000 and disrupting your life like that isn't going to get you any closer to moving to Florida any faster. In fact, it's probably going to slow it down. It's not really going to maximize your price. I don't think it's worth it. it would make my job easier and it would sell the house faster. But to the extent that, you know, it's very disruptive, what do you think? Then they'll typically opt out of it. So I'm not a big fan of telling people to renovate their homes before they sell. I also think that when you do that, you own the outcome. And I don't like to, you know, I'm just not in the business of spending other people's money. And so if I tell somebody to do this, do that, do these 15 things, right? And they go and spend $15,000, and then we've agreed on a strategy, we've agreed on a price based on the condition of the home at the time I looked at it, and then they don't get that. Now who's responsible for that 15,000 that they spent? I mean, in real life of integrity, they're responsible. They made the choices, but like, who do they think is responsible? They think you're responsible, which means when the house sells for less money than they thought, who are they going to ask for some flexibility on their price? Me. I don't want to do that. I don't like to get into those fights. So, all right. So we just covered a whole host of objections, and we're at the end. I say to them now, so they asked me all those questions. I say, so we remember, guys, I came to the house, right? I sat down. I said, why am I here? I found out what they needed, right? We got really clear on what their need was and why they wanted to go through this terrible experience of selling their home. I went through the property. I looked at it. I sat down. I asked them another question. What do you think your house will sell for? They told me, and then they want me to answer. And I said, I'll get to that. Aside from that, do you have any other questions? They sent me every question they had, all those objections. I answered each and every one. So now we're at the end. Do you guys have any other questions? And they say, no, actually, you've done a great job. You've answered all of our questions. So aside from price, is there anything else that we need to discuss? Is there any other thing that we need to talk about that would prevent you from moving forward and hiring me? No, nothing else, just price. Awesome. Awesome. So what I'm going to do tonight, now that I've seen your home, now that we've talked, I'm going to do a really in-depth analysis of your property. And tomorrow I'm going to call you up and we're going to start the process of strategically identifying the right price to go on the market. Will that work for you? Yeah. Awesome. So tomorrow when I call, we're going to pick a price and we're going to pick a timeline. And that's when we're going to go live. And within 48 hours, you're going to hear from our listing manager on our team. And they're going to start setting you up with our stager, our photographer, and getting our marketing plan in place. Does that work for you? Absolutely. Awesome. So I'll call you tomorrow. Tonight, you'll get a review of the market, of every property that I think is relevant in pricing your home, and we'll have a really good plan for moving forward. Does that sound good? Yeah. No glossy bound presentation materials. All right. What do you think? That's it. You just saw it. Comments, questions, thoughts? Mary Beth. Hello, Mary Beth.
Hi. Thank you.
Hi.
This is great. Great. Thank you. Easy question.
Yeah.
What if that appointment was at like 1 p.m?
Same. Yeah.
It
No.
would be the same. And you thought somebody else was coming at 5.
Oh, and somebody else is coming. I would just make them promise me that they wouldn't hire the person until they talk to me again. So if I know that somebody else is coming, I would just say, aside from price, is there anything else that we need to discuss before we move forward? And if they say, no, price is really it, that's the only thing, great. I'm going to go and I'm going to do my research. I'm going to provide that to you tonight. And then tomorrow we're going to talk about a strategy that we should put in place in order to get your listing ready. So tonight, when that person that you're meeting with comes at 5, just promise me you don't sign an agreement in a weak moment because you guys are in a rush, because I promise it's going to be worth waiting for.
So I have a question. You didn't when you were out doing listing presentations, you never really kind of looked and had an idea where they should be?
Never. I mean, I used to.
You can take the time.
I honestly, you guys are going to Cynthia and Corey are here. So is Derek. Melissa, these are people that are on the team. I usually don't even have a clue what I'm driving up to. I don't have a clue. I could be driving up to a 3-bedroom Cape or a 4,000 square. It's like a Christmas present when I drive up and I'm like, ooh, this is a nice neighborhood. Wow, look at this. This is great. Because it really doesn't matter. Again, I know this is one of the things I got a lot of pushback every time somebody joins the team and they're like, Matt, that's never going to work. And I'm like, but it does. It actually doesn't matter.
Right.
That's not what they're hiring you for. They're hiring you for your expertise. They're not hiring you for your research capability. Right. And so it's just not the thing that you need to have. And I'm not saying, here's another thing that I want to put out there as a caveat, guys. You have to be okay. Like, this is where it gets loose around the edges. Like, my life philosophy is not for everybody. Okay. I made a business decision early on that I knew I wouldn't win every listing presentation doing it the way I do it. I just knew that. I knew that there would be some people that would see my showing up without glossy presentation materials as like, that's not the guy for me. But I was willing to accept that for the efficiency and the opportunity that I thought I would gain by being really great at the presentation the way that I do it. So every once in a while, it's 100. I do not get 100% of my listings. Nobody does. You just have to accept that. But I'm totally okay with it. That's the difference between me and a lot of other people. Like, I'm okay with 80% because I just do enough of them. And I do enough of them, and I weed out the ones that are not the right fit very quickly, because, by the way, I'm unlikely to have a great relationship with those people because that's not how I show up. That's just not who I am. I'm consultative, collaborative, dialogue driven. I'm not a presentation, guy. So when I show up like that, it's inauthentic. So when I'm there the way I am, it bodes well. So yeah, real answer. I generally don't know what I'm walking into. No. I might sometimes, like, again, I might pull up a little early and sit outside and be like, okay, let me just kind of see what's going on here. The one place where this bites me in the ass all the time, this is a real story, when I'm pulling up and there's a sign on the street that's for sale, because I know they're going to ask me, what do you think about the one down the street? And I'm like, no idea. Don't know how much it's listed for. Don't know when it came on the market. Don't even know if it's under contract. Like, I need to figure that out. Like, so usually if I pull up and I see a sign on the street, I quickly get on my phone and I'm like, what's that one listed for? Okay. Cause I know they're going to ask and I don't want to look like a total buffoon. Right. So, but most of the time I don't worry about it. I've just learned it's not that important. So again, this isn't something that I'm going to encourage you all to do tomorrow because you got to ease into it. Right. But it does work. It is how we do it. So, any other questions, comments, thoughts?
Do all the agents on your team do it that way?
Everybody's got like a modified version. I'm pretty sure Cynthia brings stuff printed out, right? CB? Sometimes. Yeah. Yep. I try to get everybody to do it a little bit more this way. If it's super competitive, people will sometimes bring more data. Derek just won a lights out listing, and he did a bunch of market research before he went. So I would say that it's on the spectrum, but I would say by and large, we're doing it more my way than the old style way, because it's about activity more than anything.
Right. Oh, sorry. I think the only time would be if you thought if it was maybe a referral, or if you really thought you could close it on the first appointment, right? I mean, if I could do that, if I knew it well enough, or I knew that I had the listing next door or something, then I'd just bring it and ask for it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm literally going to a listing appointment in 30 minutes and I've never been to the house. I don't know, I don't know where it is, and I'm going to go get it.
I'm going to try that.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's not for everybody. Some people really prefer to have like more data, but it's really, really important to understand that this isn't about not providing value. It's just that I believe that this type of presentation is more about the value that's in alignment with how I operate, which is that I think that what they're really truly hiring is not the brand. They're not hiring the color of the sign. They're not even hiring the commission rate, and they're not hiring the price. They're hiring the person that they believe understands what they want and is going to help them get it. Right. And so when you can establish that you understand what they want and that you're going to help them get it, and you do that by doing a needs analysis and then isolating and answering any of their questions and concerns, when you do those two things in two separate buckets, at the end of it, other than price, is there anything else that we need to discuss that would prevent you from hiring me? And you're the only one that's doing it that way. You got to remember that. That's the other thing, is that it's a differentiation. So people are coming in, dog and pony show. They're doing all this stuff. They're bringing the presentation materials. They're dumping flyers and folders on them. They don't actually want to read any of that stuff, guys. They don't want to read it. Like, they're not interested in reading that. That's not what they want to do. They want to know that they can trust the person that they're hiring. All right, how about this? You go to the doctor, right? You have a procedure, whatever it is. When you check out, right? Piles of paper. Piles of paper. Do you read it? Does anybody read it? That's your own medical health, and you don't read the stuff. You think they're reading 30 pages of real estate BS? Right? They just think about how humans operate. Like, they're not reading it. So we spend so much time, effort, and energy creating all this freaking stuff, and it doesn't work. So let me just show you before we wrap up here. Two things. First thing I want to do, actually, while I'm getting this open, I'm going to turn it over to Jason Kilduff. Jason is our sponsor for tonight. Jason is with Ward Kilduff Mortgage. And Jay, talk to us a little bit about the mortgage market right now. What's happening out there?
Well, I mean, obviously the mortgage, the whole entire process, a little bit swayed, right, due to these over asking offers that are coming in. So we're seeing some appraisals that are coming in low, and we're seeing some of the data that's beginning to catch up, right? So things are starting to close at these higher numbers, right? And they're becoming actual data that we can use. So the longer this situation that we're currently in moves forward, the more likely it is that we're going to start seeing these values become realized in the market and the appraisals starting to come in on top. I'm not saying that they're all coming in light, but a lot of them are coming in lower.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, I think that's important to mention on how to how to strategize towards that when you're writing offers and things, because there are sellers that are concerned with that too. I'm getting a lot of pushback too. The seller doesn't want an appraisal rider or doesn't want a mortgage contingency in there. So, but a majority of them are coming in. So we're starting to see the data that's backing up these higher sales prices, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, we're writing offers where buyers are willing to cover the difference, which, that's actually the thing that starts to drive the opportunity for appraisals to come in higher, right? Is that people are willing to pay over appraised price. It's interesting because you'll get this from agents sometimes, where agents in the middle of a negotiation will come back to you and be like, well, I don't know, I'm afraid it won't appraise. And they always say, like, look, if we all entered into negotiate, like, appraisal is not actually part of the negotiation process. That's the appraisal mortgage process. And if we all entered every negotiation worried that things wouldn't appraise, then housing prices would never go up. Like, you can't actually have that conversation. You just got to negotiate in favor of your seller or your buyer, get the best possible price that you can, and then you got to allow the appraisal process to play out. So it's interesting, Jay, to hear you say that you're starting to see some impact on that.
Yeah, the data is beginning to catch up, and people are concerned in the forefront. And I always say, we don't have the appraisal back yet, so we don't really have a problem that we need to worry about. Let's figure out the the deal and where everybody's going to be, and get the appraisal done and see where it is.
Yeah. Guys, I'm going to encourage you all to write down Jason Kilduff's phone number and information, especially those of you guys who haven't met him. Jay, throw it in the chat box, if you will. Jason and I have been in business together for, I think it's coming up on 13 years now. What I love about Jay and what I love about our story is that literally we were like two 30-year-old dummies. He was starting a mortgage company and I got a real estate license, and we met like half in the bag at a party. And it was like, I was like, hey man, I'm a realtor. And Jay was like, hey man, I'm a mortgage guy. I was like, sweet, here's this guy. He needs a mortgage. And Jay was like, I could do that. And 13 years later, I mean, we've probably done 1,000 transactions together at this point. He is one of the smartest mortgage guys, a total advocate for your customers. Just a tremendous resource to have in your corner. We all know how important that is, to have a resource. So one of the things that Jay does is he does what many of us do. He's not just trying to close transactions. He's educating the client. He's giving them options, and then he's counseling them through the process. And he's also awesome at keeping me and the agents on the team informed, which that's the worst thing, right? When we don't know what's happening and the mortgage commitment date comes and we have to call the lender and go, hey, where's the mortgage? And they're like, oh, I need an extension. Like, No. You can't ask me on the day that you're supposed to tell me 5 days ago that you're going to need it. Like, by the way, my play, Jay has never done that to me, but it's other mortgage people. So when a mortgage person calls me on the day a commitment's due and says, I need an extension, do you know what I say to them? Awesome. Call the client. Here's the client's number. Let them know that you missed your deadline because it's the only deadline you have. Let them know that you missed your deadline. And also, here's the listing agent's number. Give them a call and let them know that you're going to be submitting an extension on behalf of the client because you missed your deadline. Well, don't the realtors do that? And I go, well, no, that's not my deadline. That's your deadline. The mortgage commitment is your job. So why would I now go and solve your problem? It's your problem. They hired you to do this on this time. I didn't call you when the home inspection needed to be extended. So you need to do that. Lenders love that. Don't take people's jobs, guys. Don't take people's jobs from them. Let them do their jobs. Anyway, sorry, just had to throw that in there. That's my little tidbit about how to take control of your deals also. One more thing. I have to go back to the chat box. Where's Nick Green? There he is. So Nick put in here, they will work with who they like and trust, even if they interview 7 agents. And then he also put in, and nowadays they'll just grab 4% commission and not care what the marketing is. 100% disagree with that, Nick. I'm going to push back as hard as I possibly can because I win listings every day and people have opportunities for 4% listings and they still hire me and they pay me many points above that. So if everybody was only interested in discount brokers, somebody tell me why discount brokers aren't number one in every market. Huh? Oh, that's right. Discount brokers aren't number one in any market. Show me a single market where a discount broker is the number one agent. They're not. How come? Because their value sucks. Because they don't provide value. All they provide is discount. And people aren't actually interested in discount. Some are. Some want to pay the cheapest price. But the vast majority of people are interested in value. So provide value and don't worry about your price. Be confident in what you charge and you'll be fine. So anyway, just saying, just want to throw that out there because this is the greatest objection handler ever. If somebody says, hey, I want to charge, I want you to do it for 4%. You just say, I can't. That's what discount brokers do. There's plenty of them out there that would do that. But let me ask you a question. If paying a discount was the strategy that was going to work all the time, then how come discount brokers aren't the number one agents in every market? You'll see their wheels spinning. You're like, oh, good point. Because you get what you pay for. So anyway, I don't know. Maybe I treaded into territory I wasn't supposed to. I don't really know the rules around that. Caveat, I wasn't actually talking about any of that. So anyway, all right, let me show you guys this and then we're going to end. How was that, Nick? Did you like that? Yes?
Yeah, no, I mean, you're, I just see it more now, and plus being on the buyer side, we keep seeing 2% commissions, but I still, thanks to your pushbacks on commission, I still stand by the 6 and work from there. So,
all right, check it out. So this is what I send to our prospects as a pre-listing presentation. I figured I'd show you guys this. So we send this as a team. That we send this before and I send it after, right? So when I meet with them, they get this beforehand. So pretty much this is as much of what they're going to ever get from me. It's basically an outline, right? This is a page 2, right? Here's what's in it. Page 3, get to know us. So what we're trying to do here is just establish value and establish credibility before. I don't really think many of them read it, right? So that's, again, the whole thing here. Let's see, here we go. So we cover, who we are, why we put your awards in there, all that kind of stuff. And then I actually cover like how we're going to do it. Like I show them like, hey, you're going to have me over. Let me show you how we're going to do it. We made this so that it's like clickable. So you can actually go in and look at this stuff. So like, let's see. I don't think that worked. What do you guys see right now? What are you seeing? Somebody tell me.
the listing presentation.
You still see it? Still see it? I don't know what it just opened on me. Hang on.
We're seeing page 4 and 5.
Okay. I gotta find it. It opened up a new window and I lost it. Thanks for your patience. This is why I don't do it live like this either. Where did it go? I don't even know how I lost it.
Matt, is this going to be recorded?
What's that?
It's going to be recorded?
Is it?
Going to be recorded this session or no?
Oh yeah, it's recorded and it's on the, that's actually, thank you for asking, Hala. It's on the Facebook Miale Team Mastermind page. So anything that we ever do, guys, and we put all kinds of info up there, market stats, information, Facebook. As a matter of fact, Lauren, if you can, Lauren, if you're here, if you could put a link in the chat box to the Team Mastermind page so people can click on that to join right now, that would be awesome. Yeah, so there we go. Okay, got it back. All right, so then I'm not going to click on this because that's how I lost it last time, but this is all clickable. So they can go and they can see some of our video packages. We talk a little bit about some of the highlights that we get in the press. And then we talk about, hey, here's what's going to happen when we launch your listing. One of our team mantras is right, not rushed. So a lot of times you get that agent, you know, that customer that calls like, I need it on the market on Monday. And we go nuts, crazy, right? I'm a big fan of we follow the formula. We don't reinvent the formula. It's a formula, right? It's a recipe. It's not a menu. So we follow the process. So, and so I need it on the market on Monday or I'm going to hire somebody else. I always say, well, you know, that's up to you to do that. But if you want to do it the right way and get the most money and get the biggest marketing reach, then you'll follow the prescription that I give you. So in any case, we talk a little bit about what our launch is going to look like. And then we talk about accepting and negotiating a contract, and we give them access to our quarterly report, a video about the team, and just more information. So again, nothing fancy here, guys, but it's enough. It's enough to give people an idea of who they're working with. And that is really it. I mean, as far as the pricing, what do I do for CMA? I use the MLS CMA. How many of you guys are like, wow, wow? Yeah, that's it. That's what I use. I use the MLS CMA. Again, it's perfectly fine. It's great. It gives them the details they need. If that's actually the information they're probably going to look at, you know, that's really what matters. So, all right, well, let me wrap it up by asking you guys, what questions do you have? Comments, thoughts? Deb said, thank you. Thank you, Deb. Thank you for coming. One other.
Thanks for sharing all this, Matt. That's super awesome. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, Bill. I'm glad you showed up, man. Love it. Let me ask you guys another question. What did you get out of today? Let's hear like 2 or 3 kind of summary points. Like, oh wow, this was a thing I took away that I think is really going to be valuable for me. So let me hear 2 or 3 of those, and then we'll wrap it up. I'm waiting.
I think the biggest thing for me since joining the team, now I used to be one of those agents now showing up with the briefcase and pulling out the CMA and all the glossies and all that stuff. And I'm moving more and more away from that. You know,
yeah,
just walking in, because like you've always said, it's about building a relationship, not trying to, impress somebody with numbers and figures and trying to swell their head full of, data and stuff.
Right.
It's about building a relationship and seeing how you can help them achieve the goals that they want to strive for.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. Thank you, Rob. Thank you. All right, somebody else. Bring it. What else did you get?
You reminded me to use the knee surgeon analogy.
yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. That's one of my favorite ones. When you say that to them, you see their eyes go back in their head. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe I just asked that question. It makes them feel silly for asking. Like, yeah.
Well, it's funny because some people think that you have to be the Easton only professional, and it's like, well, really? You don't.
Yeah. Hey, Mary Beth, it's amazing you just said Easton. Derek's smiling. Derek, do we have a signed contract yet?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell Mary Beth about Easton. Who was our competitor down there?
Was it Kelly?
Kelly something.
Oh, Kelly Higgins, sure.
Yeah, so the Miale team from West Hartford just beat Kelly Higgins for a $1.6 million listing at Easton.
Good job, Derek.
That was all Derek. And that was 100% one of the objections we had to overcome. Well, you guys aren't from here. And we were like, let me tell you why that's good for you. Right.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. People think that matters, but it really doesn't. And it should never prevent you from winning a listing. Especially when you get really good at at handling those objections. The thing is that you've also, one of the other things that I really, want to impress upon everybody is get really confident in your value proposition and then just go deliver that. Don't try to replicate somebody else's. What is it that you think you're really great at? So my presentation was totally driven by the fact that I was really good at, helping people figure out what they wanted. And so that's how my whole presentation feels. That's how the whole collaboration feels. I'm here, I'm in your kitchen. We're going to talk. We're going to work through it. We're going to figure this stuff out together. And that's what you're going to hire me for. And the right people are really going to hire. And obviously enough people think that there's value in that I've been able to list and sell a lot of properties. If I thought my core value proposition was landscaping, I probably wouldn't have as big of a real estate business. I might have a landscaping business, but get super clear about what is your core value proposition. And then when you go, just deliver it, just crush it, give it to them, tell them why you're the best. And you're going to get a lot of clients that way.
I think the words that you used, my influence outside the market and my advocating for you here and throughout the process, those words are great scripts. So yeah. I'm grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. All right. Somebody give me one more. Tell me one other thing you took away today out of this that's gonna impact how you move forward. And then we'll wrap it up and go have dinner. Or actually, I'll go to a listing appointment. One more. What'd you hear? Come on, we covered so much good stuff. I'm not letting you go to one more. I think
if you just be human, right? Because you're talking to another person, you get caught up in overthinking it and trying too hard. But if you just remember they're a person and make it more personable and relationship based, then that's a lot of times I get in my own head where I try to be too much and it's just not beneficial. A lot of times you just got to remember they're another person.
You're singing my
song. And just have a conversation with them and not overthink it.
The best version what we do is we get in our head and we try to imagine the person that they want to show up, and then we try to morph ourselves into that. And honestly, the best person you can be when you show up is you. Don't be anybody else. Just go be you. Whatever you are. Like, that's actually the way that you're most likely going to get the most clients. Don't try to be what you think the number one agent in the market looks like. Don't try to be anything other than who you are. If you do that and deliver value in that meeting, and obviously you're not going to naturally have a framework, but I just gave you a framework that will work. It'll work 75, 80% of the time. It will not work 100% of the time, but it will work 75 to 80% of the time. If you go and do that and practice that over and over and over again, you're going to take tons of listings. You're going to get tons of them. And you don't have to be anybody else in order to do that. Unless you're completely disinterested in humans and you hate people, in which case you should reconsider real estate. You should try a different business. But anyway. All right, guys, it's been awesome spending time with you. Thank you so much for giving me your time. I so appreciate you doing this. I love doing this with the team. As you can see, a lot of our team is here. I started doing these masterminds just for our team, and we knew we were getting so much value out of it that we figured we'd open it up to whoever wanted to join. So Grateful for you guys when you join and your feedback, and thank you. And somebody go sell something. All right. That's what you got to do every day. See you later.